A man's legs ache as he suffers from exhaustion after his long march south. He is standing on the front lines of a grass hill that is to become a battlefield. It is October, and the autumn frost has begun to nip at his leather shoes, and the crows have begun to gather ahead. The man is a part-time farmer in the fired units, and has only been soldiering for 2 months, but he's already at his second battle. He is told to lift up his shield high enough to make a human shield wall. Its straps dig into his skin as his shoulder muscle strains and begins to shake under the weight. He hears the sounds of horses rounding the bend down below. Mounted them are knights, cladded head to toe in heavy armor. Behind them is a massive army, ready to fight to the death if need be. The man notices that he is no longer shaking from his shoulder, but his whole body is in tremors of fear as a tear runs down his cheek. He hears the screams of "Advance!" Will he be alive at the end? He, like everyone, would need luck on their side. Hello and welcome to the channel. I am that one history guy. Yes, I have changed my name, but this is part number 3 of the Norman Conquest series, where we're going to talk about the Battle of Hastings. I'm actually really excited about it because I've been teaching it for a week and I can't wait to tell you guys about it. But if you haven't watched part number 1 or part number 2 yet, stop what you're doing. Go watch those first. It's really important to watch things in chronological order. And as always, please like, comment, but most importantly, subscribe. Now, let's get into it. We left off with Harold Godwinson on the up. He was the King of England, and he had just won the Battle of Stamford Bridge near York in the north of England. He was extremely content with himself, and his army was happy. Not only did they repulse an invasion force, killing the Norwegian king Harald Hardrada, and a contestant to his English throne, but they also made sure that the Scandinavians would never return to the British shores with an army. Now, because of Harold Godwinson's success, he allowed his troops to have a feast and relax for a day. They had earned it after all. However, things were beginning to happen in the south coast of England along the British Isle. William, the Duke of Normandy, the next contestant to this pageant of an English crown, had set off from Normandy, France, with a fleet of 700 ships. On board them, there were 10,000 soldiers. In addition to that, there were an all-important 3,000 heavily armed knights on horseback, which were like the tanks of the day. By the 28th of September 1066, William the Duke of Normandy landed in England, and it's thought that he landed in Pevensey. But while he was landing, he was getting off his ship and he fell straight flat on his face. Many of his assistants rushed to help him, but he turned and he was holding 2 clumps of sand in his fist. And he said, "Look how easy it is to take this land. I have already taken these isles with both hands." The Norman invaders set out pillaging and burning the areas across the harbour mouth in order to force Harold Godwinson, the English king, to defend his people and defend his country. The Normans made a small march 10 miles east to a town that would become famous, Hastings, where they built a wooden castle to prepare for Harold Godwinson until he took notice of them. Now here's the thing, it totally worked. Word reached Harold Godwinson, who was still in New York, that the Norman force had arrived on the English shores. So he, with his remaining 3,000 housecarls, the professional Danish warriors who helped him win the Battle of Stamford Bridge, immediately headed south to London, and they gathered up more troops as they went down the country. Harold Godwinson's troops were exhausted, of course. It had been a heavy few weeks for them. So They asked Harold Godwinson, can we please have a rest so we can gather more troops? And he allowed them to do so in London, but only for 1 week, because he was eager to move again, so that he could surprise William the Duke of Normandy, just like he had surprised Harold Hardrada and the Viking army at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Once they had set off from London again, Harold Godwinson marched his 3,000 housecarls, and he had an additional 5,000 fired part-time unskilled soldiers and common folk to the area where William the Duke of Normandy was pillaging. When William the Duke of Normandy caught wind that the English army was coming to attack, he knew that he would have to meet them eventually in battle. This was England after all, which meant that they would have an endless stream of supplies and soldiers, and the one thing that the Normans wanted to avoid was to not be in a besiegement, as they wouldn't have the opportunity to smuggle in supplies. The Normans knew when it came down to a war of attrition, they would lose, so they would have to beat the English in a battlefield. In any event, William the Duke of Normandy was confident. The Norman army was made up of 13,000 professional soldiers who were well equipped and were well trained. They had better tactics as well. The English army numbered just 8,000 who were tired from their long march. They were poorly paid because they didn't get anything, and they were just promised the spoils of war. Also, these friar units, the only reason they came to fight was because they had a deal that they wouldn't have to pay taxes to their upper classes, their barons and their earls, who would then go to the king and pay their taxes. But instead of paying these taxes, they would serve time in the military. By the 14th of October 1066, Harold Godwinson was rounding a bend, and he came across a small hill called Senlac Hill, near the town of Hastings. He knew that if he placed his army onto the hill, he would have the high ground, which of course is a massive advantage. Harold Godwinson and his army got into lines. The housecarls were in the middle. They were the professional soldiers with the friar units on the side. Learning how effective a shield wall could be, he told his men to brace as they raised their shields high enough to build a human shield wall. The Normans then arrived on the battlefield, and in a professional manner, they quickly formed lines. William the Duke of Normandy ordered his well-trained foot soldiers to march straight up the damp hill and attempt to break through the lines. The English, though, waited for them, and they were strong. They began on the high ground, which meant that they had gravity on their side. The Normans arrived at the battle lines tired because, of course, they had to walk up this hill. And the English met them with their pikes and their battle axes, and they were literally throwing them and hitting them on their heads. The Normans were, of course, dying. The Normans even saw that even though they had outnumbered the English were still strong. They were able to put up a fight. Their lines are solid in their defense. William the Duke of Normandy sent his elite knights on horseback to break through the lines, but they struggled to break through the shield wall as they set off from the bottom of the hill, but lost speed when they got to the top of the hill because they were, of course, very heavy. Even the Norman archers weren't effective. The English didn't have archers, but the Normans couldn't use their archers because they were shooting uphill. So the arrows weren't able to even arrive to their enemy. They were just falling and pleating just before their feet. The English were using battle axes to hit their enemy back, and the ground was becoming a bloody, muddy pool of death. There's even one account of a housecarl who powerfully chopped the head off a knight's horse, killing the knight and the horse in a single blow. In general terms, it looked like the English were rarely getting to win this battle, and rather easily as well. It's important to note here that they were confident because they had just won the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Then, all of a sudden, news broke out that the English had beaten back the Normans so badly that they somehow, in this melee of death, had killed William the Duke of Normandy. The Normans went into a panic and retreated away. As soon as the English saw this, they dropped their shields and chased after their enemy down the hill. As this happened, a lone voice screamed out, and a man took off his helmet. "Look at me! I'm alive, and with the aid of God, I shall win this victory." It was William, the Duke of Normandy. The Norman army was, of course, well trained, and they quickly encircled the English that had chased them down the hill, and they slaughtered them. the Norman army worked their way back up the hill again and got in contest with the English. The English, however, were still holding strong, and the Normans knew that they needed a better tactic. So William told his archers to get closer, and instead of shooting straight at the English, shoot up. So the English would have to take their shield wall and put it above their heads, which exposes their bodies to the Norman soldiers who were standing in front of them, and they literally stabbed them to death. The Normans knew as professional soldiers they could organize themselves much quicker than the English, because the English weren't professional soldiers. So they pulled off a trick, and we think this is how it happened. They seemed to fake a retreat so the English army would chase them down again. When they arrived to the bottom of the hill, the Normans quickly organized themselves and beat back the English army, but this time there was no comeback. Harold Godwinson had a few brothers, and they were killed in this skirmish. Then a lone arrow from a Norman archer flew across the sky, and it struck its mark, penetrating Harold Godwinson's right eye. Just after that, a mounted knight came galloping past and cut down the king by chopping off his legs. His body was then trampled into the ground. Seeing this, many of the unprofessional soldiers that made up the English army ran away, but the paid housecarls, who had sworn an oath to protect their king in life or death, stayed on the battlefield until they were all killed. The battle had lasted for 6 hours, and William was victorious. This meant that there was no king of England, which left a gap for William to take charge of the entire country. William started out life as William the Bastard, an unrecognized illegitimate son of a French duke. Then he became the Duke of Normandy as he succeeded his father. Now, however, William was William the Conqueror, and he had beaten back a king of England in battle. But this didn't mean everyone would bend to his rule so easily. It would take him his whole life to secure the crown on his head, as he turned into a tyrannical monarch and ruled by force. Find out how he ruled by force in part number 4. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed that. Let me know what you want to watch in the future by commenting down below. Like, comment, subscribe, the more you know.